If you aren't getting haters, you're definitely doing something wrong. You're not being authentic and you're not telling the truth. If you're trying to please everybody, I'm not a marketing expert. I am not a lawyer. There's a lot of things I don't do that I needed to have in order to grow my business. So the first thing was finding people that were great where I am not great. And then the second part of that, let's hear from your son who thinks you're never going to meet his future children. Let's hear from your daughter who worries you'll be dead before you walk her down the aisle. Now let's go to the doctor, you son of a bitch, and listen to the fact that you can't get an erection anymore, that you're going to have Alzheimer's, that all of these comorbidities are currently happening to you right now. And if you can scare them enough, as sad as it sounds, I'm willing to give up whatever those donuts afford me, and I'm willing to do the work that might be uncomfortable because it's more uncomfortable being where I'm at right now.
Guys, I don't know if you guys know what Jillian Michaels has done. So first of all, you know her from The Biggest Loser. You know her from The Doctors. 100 million. Somebody say 100 million.
100 million.
100 million DVD sales. Guys, that is not a $100 million club. 100 million DVD sales. Let's hear it. Woo! All right. That's impressive. But also, she's written 9 books. 8 of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, are New York Times bestsellers. How incredible is that?
That one really pisses me off.
That one.
It's just, you could just, you
It was an Amazon bestseller. It was an Amazon.
8 bestsellers. Just leave 9.
It was an off year, but I'll tell you what, I don't have a single New York Times bestseller. So let me tell you what, I'm honored to be talking to you. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So getting right into it, you know, one of the things that we were just talking about backstage is we were talking about how similar fitness goals are to the goals that we make with our business.
Goals in general have the same roadmap, if you will. It's the same set of skills. Without question, and I've used that set of skills with my personal goals, professional goals, health and wellness goals. And I even wrote a book, this one was a bestseller, called Unlimited, showing how those goals are transcendent across all aspects of your life.
Well, so, you know, one of the things that we always set these big goals and everything, right? But I guess the question, you know, like everyone knows how to lose weight. Everyone knows how to get into shape. Bill and I have taught you guys how to grow a law firm. We taught you how to get clients. We taught you how to get leads. But what is typically like the issue that you see? Like, because we all know if you want to lose weight, stop eating so much, move more, right? But what do you find is usually the issue?
If you can imagine the goal, right? That's somewhere. You've got a roadmap. Okay, in detail. We can work on all those little steps. Then you need to believe in your worth and your ability to achieve it. And that's usually where things go wrong. And then you need to take the action steps to achieve it. And that's also kind of easy to fix. Because if you're taking misinformed actions, you screw up, you make a mistake, you learn from it, you fix the actions, you make smarter actions, and ultimately you become successful, right? Success is a matter of attrition. But that middle part is usually where it goes wrong.
Well, and that's funny. We were talking about this also, is that, you know, everyone sees Jillian Michaels on TV. They see the book sales, they see the DVDs, they see the app, they see all this cool stuff, right? But nobody really sees the beginnings, right? They don't see all the stuff that you tried and it didn't work, right? And I think that a lot of people kind of get into that in their head where like, I'm afraid to try this thing because I just don't know if it's going to work or not. So can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you tried before we saw you on TV, before you had all this success? Like, what led up to that? Because I don't think a lot of people see that. And I love hearing these stories.
There are so many things I could sort of throw out there right now. I'm gonna try to narrow it down. Obviously, look, I've made a ton of mistakes. The key, as you've heard, is not making the same mistake twice. But I had different visions for success. Initially, when I started out, I thought I was gonna franchise my training gym. So at that time, Curves was a very successful franchise. And I thought, okay, I need to become a celebrity trainer. And then I can get attention from my gym. And then I can bring investors on. And then I can franchise out this gym. And the long story short is I made a lot of mistakes along the way. But those mistakes led me to an opportunity on The Biggest Loser. And by the way, I lost the first television show that I auditioned for, because I went in with all my celebrity clients thinking like, oh, this is the way to get this job.
Mhm.
And when they didn't hire me, I was like, I'm so confused. And I asked for feedback, even though you don't want to hear it. Why didn't you choose me? Nobody really wants to hear all the reasons you did not get the job.
Mhm.
But that's going to be the most important information you ever get. Why didn't you choose me? Why didn't you go this way? Right? How come I'm just curious. Thanks so much for your time. Why didn't you choose me?
Mhm.
Oh, well, we didn't think you were relatable. And, we're working with soccer moms, this, that. That show went 2 seasons, never went anywhere. No one's ever heard of it. When I went in for Biggest Loser, I was like, this is my soccer mom. And this is my 80-year-old with spinal stenosis. He lost 30 pounds. And this is my dad bod guy. Look at his 6-pack now. I got that job. And as you know, that's a big part of the reason I get to sit here in front of you today. So there are many, 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 many failures.
Mhm.
The key is learning from them and reapproaching more intelligently. And again, it's a matter of attrition.
Absolutely. So you said that because you failed, you got onto The Biggest Loser.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I hate these like cheesy cliches, but I'm going to throw a lot of them out here today. I don't know why. For some reason, they keep coming into my head, but rejection is protection. Kind of is. It's usually preparing you for the right person, job opportunity, the right thing that's waiting just around the corner in life for you to evolve a little bit more to be ready for it. So that failure readies you up a bit, sharpens you, pick yourself up, a little more resilience, a little bit wiser. And the right thing is just waiting for you to be ready for it.
I love that. Rejection is protection.
Usually.
That is so cool. Guys, on Zoom, are you guys with me on Zoom? Type rejection is protection in Zoom. I love that. I'm going to borrow that from you because that is absolutely amazing.
Please.
So what's really interesting that you just said is you asked them for something that is very, very difficult. You asked them, what didn't you like about me? Right. And that's something that, and we talked about this with a didn't hire survey. We talked about this when you go to when you go to people who didn't hire your law firm and you say, why didn't you hire me? And sometimes it's not comfortable, right? But what are some of the things that, do you take that approach in your life normally where you try to look at what actually went wrong so that you can improve it? Like, what are some examples of how you do that in your own life?
Well, obviously you're not going to please everybody all of the time, nor should you try to. But when it comes to your work in particular, you really want to find out, like, okay, what was it? Why didn't I get the job? So it could be, oh my God, it could be, why didn't you buy this television show? How come you didn't buy this book idea? How come I didn't get hired as a host for this? Why? And you'll know when it rings true. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, we wanted a guy for the job, or we wanted, okay, fine, whatever. It's the serenity, another one for you, the serenity prayer. It's having the courage to take action where you can, right? Having the strength and the ability to accept the things that are totally out of your control and the wisdom to know the difference. So take the feedback and filter it and do the gut check. When you're like, all right, there's nothing I can do about that. That's total BS. That's their issue. And oh God, yeah, that's me. That's me. And that's what you drill down on.
I think that's actually a very, very wise point in the fact that you have to accept that there's certain things you're not going to be able to change. If they wanted a man for the show, you're not going to be able to change that. There's nothing you can do about that.
It was a sports job in the octagon. I thought I'd be great at it, but I guess not.
Yeah.
So, and that's totally, it is what it is. They're like, oh, we're really looking for, this kind of character. And I was like, I can totally do that, but maybe I couldn't have. It is possible. I could not have done it. So be it.
Yeah. Well, we talk about, look, you can only control what you can control and you can only do what you can do, So what's really interesting about that though, is that we talk a lot about identity, right? And identity, I think a lot of identity is understanding that I'm the type of person who only worries about what I can control. And understanding I'm the type of person when I make a goal, I'm going to follow through that goal. And like, what would you say identity, when it just comes to hitting a goal, whether it's weight loss or growing a business, which you've done both, and getting in shape and even getting TV shows and just writing books and things like that. What do you say about identity in terms of how you view yourself? How does that relate to success in other areas?
sounds like it's a self-worth question that you're asking me,
Yeah.
which comes down to that sort of middle part of the believe part. Believe in your worth and believe in your ability to achieve the goal. Now, it's really difficult to build your self-worth and your self-confidence if you don't have an experience where you've been successful. So, for example, if I'm like, oh, no, you are totally capable of doing this, this, and this, and you're thinking to yourself, well, every other time I tried it, I failed. You're not going to believe in a reality you haven't experienced. One of the reasons that I like utilizing fitness so much is because it allows me to shatter these beliefs about what a person thinks they can do. And then it opens up an infinity of possibilities. So they have a story, usually from childhood. We all do a narrative that we took on for the reason our life was the way it was. And it could be a million different reasons, but nevertheless, it could be I'm not important, right? Maybe dad worked all the time, but as a child, you internalized it to mean I'm not important or don't be important. My family was overweight, and to be close to my parents, food was a thing. So I'm the funny fat guy. That's my identity. That's what I do. I'm never the guy that could run a marathon or a half marathon or a mile for that matter, or a 15-second sprint. If you can give somebody the tools, and that's why those small goals and successes are so important, because they have that little success and they're like, oh, I never thought I could do that. I wonder what else is possible. And it opens up this infinity of possibility. And now we've got these successes under your belt that exist in another cliche, right? The learning zone, which is just ever so slightly out of your reach. So if you're crawling, learn to stand. If you're standing, learn to walk, right? It's the very next step. But the more successes you have, the more you build your belief in your worth and your capability. And that to me is what builds identity. It's not something we just have. Got to build it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% correct. Now, that's something I've worked very hard is basically shaping my identity. Is that something that you've even done for yourself? Like, were you always this confident and this driven, or did you have to actually take it one success or maybe not any success, just one milestone at a time to get to the point from your point A to where you are now?
I actually I know some of you may know this story. I was an overweight kid. Gay, didn't know I was gay. All the other kids in school did know though. So I was like the chubby kid that was gay with a huge nose and braces and bad skin. And my parents were getting a divorce. I was kind of a mess. I was that kid at like 12 years old. And my mom, thank goodness, had the foresight to get me into martial arts because she's like, well, it'll help build her confidence. So I did get into martial arts and I got the shit kicked out of me. And I remember thinking to myself, like the first month, right? I'm getting kicked in the stomach by this grown man. And I'm thinking, this isn't fair. This is child abuse. This is crazy. I'm crying. I can't breathe. I'm on the floor, falling apart. And he's like, I swear to God, get out of this corner or I'm going to break your ribs. And I was like, and I fought my way out of that corner. But what it ended up doing was teaching me that I was capable of getting out of the corner, that the victim mentality didn't serve me, that I was strong enough. And ironically, it was through the belief of others that I respected that I began to believe in myself. So a coach or a mentor can work as a bridge. Because if I believe in you, and I think you really know what you're doing, and you believe in me, by virtue of that relationship, I'm like, okay, well, he really knows. And if he thinks I can do it, maybe I can. So it's a tool that I then use with people I work with. And I still have mentors that are like, now you got this. No, you could do the octagon job. Screw them. Like you need people in your life that are mentors. It really helps.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of mentors. Between Bill and myself, we spend $600,000 a year just on coaching, mentors. It's the cheat code. It's the absolute cheat code.
Yeah.
So what is and you alluded to a little bit, but I want you to go a little deeper on that. Like, who are some of your biggest mentors that you've worked with? And more importantly, where would you be if you didn't have mentors, if you were left to just kind of figure all this out on your own?
Oh, God. Oh man. I don't know. Probably having made a lot of business mistakes. Let's put it that way. So as a kid, it was my karate teacher.
Mm.
And then as I got older, it was a boss that I had at a desk job of all things. And then, I got a little older and other fitness professionals I admired and other business professionals I admired. And Susie Orman really took me under her wing when I first started out. And she was like, you're making such a mistake here. And I tell you, girlfriend, and this is, what are you doing? And this is wow, what are you thinking? And I was fortunate enough to have access to people like her that helped guide me in the right direction, give me great advice, connect me to the right people. And really, the idea is that you have somebody that's walked that path. And it's like, oh, no, I see you're trying to go to this location here. If you go to the right, there's fire-breathing dragons. And if you go to the left, there's great white sharks. I suggest you go right down the middle, and this is the gear you should be wearing. So it just helps you, right? Another cliche for you. Stupid people don't learn from mistakes. Sorry, but it's true, right? Smart people learn from their mistakes. Really wise people learn from other people's mistakes.
Love that quote.
I'm occasionally wise. I have been stupid and generally right in the middle.
Let me ask you a question. Everybody in this room, are you guys wise? Say wise if you guys are wise. All right. Who do wise people learn from? Other people's mistakes. And it is like, that is worth the entire trip that you guys came down here. That's like the secret to this entire thing. Sorry, that's such a good point. I mean, it's
my next book, I want to call it What I Know Now. And it's just for 20-year-olds. And it's like, don't do that. All the mistakes that I wish somebody had told me before I made them. It's like, if you had a time machine, what would you say to yourself? There's not a book long enough, actually. I think it'd be a 600-page book.
So we talked about mentors, right? Everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs a coach. And then, once you have that, one of the things that as you start getting more successful, you start realizing you can't do it all yourself. One of the things we talked about is delegating, but I want to hear from your perspective in terms of, can you do it all yourself? When did you realize that? And how do you handle delegation?
I realized that very early on, but not necessarily because of the workload initially, but because of the variety of work in what I was hoping to accomplish. I'm not a branding expert. I'm not a marketing expert. I am not a lawyer. There's a lot of things I don't do that I needed to have in order to grow my business. So the first thing was finding people that were great where I am not great. And then the second part of that, and you and I were talking about this just a minute ago, when you delegate, how you do it is so, so important. So I've made the mistakes where I think, okay, right? You're the lawyer. I'm not the lawyer. I trust you. And I've signed that contract and almost lost everything because of it. I'll tell you, I've made that mistake. Now I'm like, okay, you're the lawyer. Sit down and tell me what each one of these things is on this page in a way that I can understand it. So the lawyer does all the work, does all the contracts, does all the stuff. And then they tell me what's going on and I can change it. There was a book deal. He's like, they want a personal guarantee. I was like, no personal guarantee. No. Never again. And now I know, right? Big mistake, by the way. 14-year mistake cost me about $10 million. No personal guarantees ever. So I learned from that mistake. So obviously there are things you will have to delegate. The key is don't micromanage it, because while you are the person who you hired to be the expert is going to get frustrated and annoyed and check out, and everything else going on is going to fall apart. And don't hands off it if it's something you think is beneath you, above you, too much going on. It's that Goldilocks zone of delegation where you set the goal. It's like, okay, guys, we're trying to end up the Empire State Building. I'm going to check back in every month. Tell me where we are on the map. We're here, Jill. Why aren't we there? Well, this happened. Okay, tweak course, redo the coordinates, go this way. Check in periodically. Don't micro and don't hands off it. And you should be fine.
It's so key. I mean, honestly, like what you're talking about, and we didn't collude backstage, right? What Jillian is talking about is exactly what we've been talking over these last few days. You've got to learn from other people. The most expensive way to learn is through your own trial and error. You've got to delegate. You've got to have people that you trust that are experts on. All right. So let's talk about something that that everyone is thinking. Now, I talk to everybody and I say, listen, if you get on camera, if you film videos, if you help enough people solve small problems, then they are going to know, like, and trust you, and they're going to want to hire you, and they're going to like you, right? Now, I want to hear your opinion on what happens when you put yourself out there and you start getting haters. Like, is it you just quit? Is it like, what's your advice for everybody here?
I mean, look, if you aren't getting haters, you're definitely doing something wrong. Because you're not being authentic and you're not telling the truth. If you're trying to please everybody and you're not getting attention, if you are getting haters, it's because you have the biggest target on your back. So you can know you're doing something right there. I would also say you really don't need to get caught up in that. Control your feed. There's just no reason to allow that. Control the feed. It'll take over the feed. And, in my line of work, competitors put like spam bots on things. It's an absolute pain. Control the feed so that people can't take over your community in a negative way. There's just no reason for it. And again, personally, think of it as a sign of success. And if something does ring true, right, it's just like the feedback thing. Take it in, have the strength and the self-confidence to go, okay, you know what? Maybe they were right about that. Let me look into that and let me see if I can, cop to that and say, you know what? This person had a point. I might have been wrong on that. I could have missed that. It doesn't happen to me often, but it happens to me from time to time. So listen, take it in. If it rings true, pay attention to it. If it doesn't, just block it out.
I hear you. Well, so one thing we were talking about is like helping people. Help people solve problems. And you really can't go wrong if you're helping people solve problems and talking about how they can better their life. So is that kind of like, what do you think about that in terms of basically, if you just help people, then good things are going to happen? Is that what you've kind of experienced in your life?
People always ask me about branding.
Mm-hmm.
That's outside of the 5 fitness questions. Branding. How did you build your brand? Why is your brand still around? Tell me about your brand. And I always say the key to branding is you make a sexy promise and you keep it over and over and over again. So my sexy promise is helping people, right? So that's your version, helping people. That's my version, sexy promise. Okay, we can reverse type 2 diabetes. Okay, we can help you, with fertility issues by changing X, Y, and Z. We can help you lose 15 pounds. We can help you run that half marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you can. You can absolutely help them, but I mean, they have to want to be helped. So keep in my line of work, often you can lead them to water, right? In yours, hopefully they're so desperate for help that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in mine, you got to be like, trust me, you really need this help.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. Like, so Bill's going to kind of talk to you about, I see he's writing diet, he's writing exercise on here. What is something that, like, when somebody just wants to get started, they just want to take that first step, like you said, to change your identity, it's about taking the first step. Like, what is the first step for you?
With which particular anything?
Let's say I'm just trying to change my life. I'm trying to actually set goals that I keep, whether it's my fitness, whether it's my business. Usually how you do one thing is how you do everything, right?
I think the first step always should be getting informed, because when you're, again, another one, I don't know why I'm doing this. Knowledge is power. For several reasons. One, it's way less intimidating. If I was to use weight loss as an analogy here, they're like, I have 100 pounds to lose. I just don't know where to begin. And it is overwhelming, but I'm like, oh, this is so easy. Okay, we're going to set this at the top of the pyramid. Or not easy, but simple, very simple. 100 pounds. What's the time frame? Oh, it's 6 months. I'm like, well, in order to do that, right? Informed. You need to be doing this and this and this and this and this. Can you do that? No, that's not realistic. Great. Let's make it a year. And let's break it down. Monthly, here's what needs to happen. Weekly, here's what needs to happen. Daily, here's what needs to happen. And immediately, here's what needs to happen. The immediate goals, add the daily goals make the weekly goals, make the monthly, and that equals the long-term goal. Then you know what's realistic. Then you have a better idea of how to go about achieving it. It's far less intimidating. And when you do take action, no matter what it might be, whether it's losing weight or starting a business, you're far less likely to fail. And if you do fail, it isn't going to be as severe. It won't be, I didn't do the homework and now I'm out of business and I'm going bankrupt. I didn't do the homework and I messed up my metabolism and now I yo-yo dieted and gained 10 pounds back. It's like, oh, okay, I had a little bump in the road. Let me correct. And I'm back on the road far more easily with much less damage in the process. So get informed.
I mean, they say a goal without, what do they say? A goal without a plan is just a wish, right?
Oh, yeah.
Funny is that, again, we didn't collude on this. This is the exact same way that we run our coaching program. It's that 3-year vision. And then if we want to hit that 3-year vision, what do? We break it into 3 annual plans. And then we break those annual plans into quarterly plans. It's the exact same thing, guys. Bill, I'm going to let you ask some questions because I see you're dying to ask some questions here.
Thank you for scratching my itch, by the way. I have been personally waiting to ask you these questions.
Okay.
How many of you would like to get in the best health ever in the next 18 to 24 months? Raise your hand. Yes.
Right here.
Anyone not want to get in the best shape of their life? Okay.
Give me a
yes in virtual if you want to get into the best shape of your life. Say yes in the room in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So
Yes.
Hell yeah.
actually, everyone in this room, we're to walk away from this interview and actually transform their health. Do I have everyone's attention? Actually transform their health.
Okay.
You are the leading expert on this. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone knows your net calories essentially have to be, what you eat has to be less than what you burn, essentially.
If you're trying to lose weight, yes, that is true.
If you're trying to lose weight. So we all know that. We know in order to grow our business, we have to increase leads. We have to increase cases, right? So we know that. So then my question is, are the 2 main variables that we can control over our health, nutrition and exercise?
Without question, yes.
Okay. So if that is true, okay, here's basically my question.
I feel like we're doing an algebra equation. If X equals Y.
What I do for everything. Yeah. So here's what I have.
Broccoli.
Yeah. Can we put this on the big screen, the vibe board? I want us to walk away with an actual like transformational, like just a couple bullet point strategy. If everyone here were to get shredded, if you're a dude, or what's the word if you're a lady? What's the
No, are we even allowed to have a word for it now? Fit. We'll say fit.
Yeah, I don't get fit. All right.
What you said.
We have these 2 variables of nutrition strategy and exercise strategy. So I put an effort and a time scale here. So when you get started, would you agree that effort is highest because you don't have habits around the new nutrition or the new exercise strategy?
Absolutely. It's also, if you were to look at it with regard to weight loss, people would always say to me, well, oh my God, maintenance is the hardest part. I'm like, no, it's the easiest part. You have to do all this extra work.
What's the easiest part?
Maintenance. And here's why. So once you're where you want to be, it's much easier to stay there, right? Getting where you want to go is a lot harder in a weight loss analogy in particular. And here's why. If you think about fat, it's a molecule. That's all that it is. But what does that molecule do? It's energy. Fat is stored energy, period. Calories are units of energy. So in order to lose fat on our body that we do not want, you need to put out more energy. You need to burn more energy in a day than you are consuming. Well, it's almost like student debt fat, right? It's like you need 2 jobs to pay your current bills, which is the energy you're burning in a day, and to pay off all that debt, which is all that stored fat. But once the student debt is gone, you're like, oh, this is so much easier. I can drop that second job. You can go from eating, 1,400 calories a day when you're really being strict and working out 5 times a week because you really got to use all that extra energy to being like, now I burn 1,800 calories a day. I work out 4 times a week for a half an hour and I can kind of hum. But in the beginning, as you're getting where you want to go, in particular with weight loss, it's much, much harder. Maintenance is far easier.
Okay. So in that case, we would call that once you have a solid habit. Was that kind of a good way to look at it?
Much, yeah. It becomes a lot easier. Habits, make it not so painful. So
Meaning you don't like the word habit?
no, I do like the word habit.
Okay.
I have no problem with the word habit. Maintenance becomes, so for example, if I'm dealing with somebody who's struggling with food, right? And they're trying to lose weight in the beginning, switching from donuts. And when it's like on that way to work and they're like, I pass this every day. It's part of my routine. It's my happy in the morning. And maybe they get acclimated to taking a different route to work and they've gotten acclimated to a different breakfast that they still like and is delicious, but isn't donuts. Maybe it's yogurt with some granola and they like it. It's not bad. And then all of a sudden, it's not as hard. And they kind of forget about that donut. It's like, oh my God, remember when I used to have donuts every day for breakfast? What the hell was I thinking? So it gets easier in that way. You don't feel that sacrifice. It's like when you quit smoking, right? Or when you give up diet soda. I never smoked, but people I've worked with who have.
Yep.
In the beginning, they're like, oh, and it gets easier.
Yep. So, okay. Do I still have everyone's attention? Yes? Okay, I'm trying to actually have all of us walk out of here and have the best health we've ever had in the next 2 years, okay? So, if this is the case, that we need to get to the formed habit stage, meaning we got to get to the stage where not working out is harder than working out, not eating prepped meals or whatever, blah, 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 is harder to break that than it is. Go ahead, you had a thought on that.
That again, it's a bit of a tweak to your conversation, but one of the reasons or one of the ways that you motivate people to move, they have the why, right? That's your goal.
Okay, yeah, I was going to get to that.
You have that.
Yeah.
But then you also have feeling the pain of the things you're doing.
Say that one more time.
So if the pain of the way that you are living or the things that you were doing or not doing is greater than the work and the fear associated with your goal, you'll move. So I'll give you an example, okay? All right. A lot of times people would come to me and they would just, they would completely shut off. They would go through life sort of comfortably numb. They wouldn't go to the doctor. They don't want the scare. They don't want to hear it from their family. And they kind of shut it out and they put one foot in front of the other. And they look forward to those donuts every morning. And how fucking dare you take those away? They deserve it. They do all the right things. And they're like, this is my treat. This is how I reward myself. You're like, okay, so this makes you happy. And then you set the why, right? The why, oh, you're going to be healthy. You're going to live to 100. You're going to have this. You're going to have better sex. Put the word better in front of everything. And that's actually health, better sleep, better sex, better peace of mind, more energy, the whole thing, right? It's still not enough. Okay, great. So let's hear from your wife who cries herself to sleep every night because you've already had one heart attack and she wonders when the second one's coming. Let's hear from your son who thinks you're never going to meet his future children. Let's hear from your daughter who worries you'll be dead before you walk her down the aisle. Now let's go to the doctor, you son of a bitch, and listen to the fact that you can't get an erection anymore, that you're going to have Alzheimer's, that all of these comorbidities are currently happening to you right now. And if you can scare them enough, as sad as it sounds, that they're like, all right, all of this is deeply, deeply, deeply upsetting. I'm willing to give up whatever those donuts afford me. And I'm willing to do the work that might be uncomfortable because it's more uncomfortable being where I'm at right now.
Give a round of applause for that. So I think all of us, can we all raise our hand if we agree we just kind of hit the nail on the head right there? I mean, if your why doesn't exceed your need to succeed, you're not gonna do it. You're just not gonna do it. I work out at F45. I'm a group fitness guy. It's simple for me. And what's interesting is half the people in my F45 class had a near terminal diagnosis of sorts, and that's the only reason that
rock bottom.
45.
J.K. Rowling, rock bottom is a great foundation to build your life on
There's
top of.
me and two others in my group fitness class that are doing it out of proactivity.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is, I don't know if I told everyone this. Do you know I broke 19 bones racing dirt bikes when I grew up before the age of 18? Does anyone know that? I was a millimeter away from paralysis, broke my back. Broke both collarbones, had reconstructive knee surgery twice, had an external fixator on my knee for an entire year in middle school, was in a wheelchair with a big metal contraption around my knee for a year. And I had, you know what sacroiliitis is? It's inflammation of the sacroiliac joint, the lower piece of your back.
It's excruciating.
When I was 17 years old, I was diagnosed as having arthritis. And when I told people who were a little bit beyond me in years, they went, yeah, arthritis. Yeah. No, it was seriously, I was limping on both legs every single day. And the reason that was, and then my dad had heart failure. And from the pain of me breaking 19 bones and the arthritis that came from it and seeing my dad get heart failure, ever since the epiphany that I never want that to happen to me, I never want to do that to my family, and the own prevention of my own injuries from when I was growing up, it's not hard for me to work out every morning. I'm running this event, and I think there was 6 of us in the gym this morning. How many of you were in the gym this morning? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So around 6, yeah, 7, 8, right? And I'm running the event. I had every reason to not go to the gym this morning. I had to prepare my content. I had to make sure I have the right questions. I got to But the pain that I remember from having that arthritis, and that I remember when I heard my dad had a stroke and was about to die, and I drove to the hospital to see him, that outweighs the pain of me feeling tired going to the gym at 6:15 a.m. So
Exactly.
Unfortunate, this is the question that I really, does something bad have to happen in your life for you to want to work out?
You want to hope not, right? You want that why to be enough, but in some cases it isn't. And I can give you a perfect example. So I was working with an 18-year-old kid, and let me preface, judge themselves. It's not because they're dumb. It's not because they're weak. It's not because they're lazy. It's none of those things ever. It's because whatever the negative habit they're engaging in, whatever it might be, whether it's eating too much or dating jerks or spending money they don't have, or whatever procrastinating, whatever it is, I promise you that habit at one time or another was linked to their psychological survival. It's a defense structure. It's a coping mechanism. There is no question. And that's why sometimes the why is not enough. So I was working with this 18-year-old kid, and what 18-year-old kid does not just want to look great, feel great, date girls? What there's a why. I'm like, what do you mean? You're going to go to that spring break, you're going to get that hot girl, you're going to have great sex with the hot girl and keep her as a girlfriend, and hopefully, and everything's going to go great. 18-year-old talk, which by the way, still doesn't sound bad. But anyway, John, but nevertheless, this is, I'm like, what do you mean? Look at all these awesome things. You've never had a girlfriend. You've never had this is great stuff. So I get 100 pounds off this kid in no time, 2 months, 18-year-old metabolism falls right off. Kid goes home, and his whole family is there, and everybody from the door flies open, and his mom sees him, and she starts sobbing. And I don't mean tears of joy. So mom is also overweight. And upon seeing, and dad was also there too. So dad had also lost 80 pounds, right? So now son comes home, and both of them are fit and have lost so much weight. She feels like they're abandoning her, that they broke the contract that they all had, that they were in it together. And it's like, you won't call me on my shit, I won't call you on your shit, and nobody's going to talk about it. And this is how we bond. So she becomes depressed, emotionally withdraws. What does the kid do? He puts the brakes on and starts eating with his mom. He comes back 10 pounds overweight in 2 weeks. And getting to the bottom of it, why does he eat? To fend off a primal abandonment from his mother. So it's not going to be easy to fix it. You can fix it though. And so it takes work. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. The why is part of it, but feeling the pain of everything he's missing and what it's costing him is what ultimately made him strong enough to set the boundaries with his mom. Because as painful and as hard as that was, it was more painful to not take his shirt off at spring break, to not go at all, to be humiliated in a room with, you know what I mean? It was enough, but it was hard. It's hard work. Simple, but hard sometimes.